Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Vader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with my friend Steve Bailey. He is the president of Bailey Safety, but as you'll hear throughout our conversation, he has been around the tool business and the safety business, more on the distribution side, for most of his career. He and I have done business together and worked together, on and off, for many, many years. But, I really wanted to dive into the safety side of the business and him moving from a traditional distribution space where, selling of inventory, buying and selling of inventory, representing manufacturers and whatnot, really into the teaching side and the consulting side of safety. And it's definitely a different discipline, the way that the business is operated, but, the opportunity just is fantastic. And, I really couldn't imagine anybody else, really leading something like that. So, Steve and I had a great conversation, again, talking about all things business and safety and multiple generation entrepreneurship. So I certainly enjoyed my conversation with him, and I hope you do too. This episode was brought to you by my friends at Profit2. I invited their founder, Dave Roller, on the show to talk about their pricing philosophy and maybe spill the secret sauce. Over the course of my interview with Dave, I found that his methods were much in alignment with the manual digging process I've shared with clients over the years. His algorithms just did it a whole lot faster and easier than I could. It also helps that he comes from a distribution background and understands the needs of the wholesale distributor. Since Profit2 is a software as a service, and the operative word being service, they're uniquely positioned to provide real horsepower to your internal team. Come take a look at what Profit2 can do for you at www.profit2.com. That's profit with a number 2. And be sure to let them know you heard about them on the Distribution Talk podcast. Well, hey, Steve, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to it.
Oh, you bet, man. Well, you and I have known each other a long time. So, not a whole lot of discovery here, but I am going to let you tell your tale. So if you wouldn't mind, share a little of your background. I mean, how you got involved with distribution, child labor laws excluded, things like that. So,
Yep. Yeah. Like a lot of us in the small staff-to type industrial distribution business, we're mainly family owned, which we were. My grandfather actually started the company back in 1937.
Wow.
But not as a distributor. He was a machinist, and he was doing machine work out of his garage. And just kind of a funny story, he started in 1937. During World War II, they lost Porta Cable lost their rep, I guess, due to the war. So they actually asked him to be the Porta Cable rep and go around and help sell Porta Cable tools, along with him selling them himself out of his shop.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's what kicked him off into selling power tools, get into distribution.
You got pulled into the dark side, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, all right.
Which sounded great. I don't know if it is anymore when you see some machine shops and things like that. But no, so that's what really kicked him off into the world of distribution with power tools. My dad used to tell a story, he told it to me probably 100 times. I always asked him, why did he get out of the machine shop and get into distribution? Yeah. And he goes, Dad told me, there's only so much I can make in one day, but there's no limit to what I can sell in a day.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's what ended up getting him out of the manufacturing piece and then got into distributions. And he just grew from there.
Yeah. And did he primarily stay in that power tool genre? I mean, is that kind of where? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he did up until the mid 60s, and he unexpectedly passed away actually right before I was born. So I never got to meet him. Sounds like a really, really cool guy that was a true inventor and entrepreneur. So he ran it started in 37 and ran it through the mid 60s. My dad had been working there, obviously, because it was a family business, and then took it over when my grandfather passed away. So my father ran it from the mid 60s by himself up until 91 when he retired.
Okay.
At that point, I'm the youngest of 6 kids. At that point, my oldest brother had been involved with the business for about 9 years, running it with our father. So when he got out, it was about the same time I got out of college. I went to go work for a large national retail chain. I got in their management training program right out of college. Was doing that for a couple of years, really liked it. Great program, learned a ton in those couple of years, but realized that retail wasn't something I wanted to do long term.
Yeah.
Strictly hours. I mean, retail hours are nights, weekends, and of course, this
For
time of the year between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you didn't take a day off.
Right.
And I just saw the writing on the wall as you moved up through the organization. It only got worse. It didn't get better. So
what was the chain? The retail?
It was Mercantile Stores. They were based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. They were actually purchased by Dillard's.
Oh, okay.
Soon after, right after I had left them.
Okay.
In the early 90s. So yeah, it was retail clothing, department store.
Yeah.
And again, great program. I probably learned more in those couple of years than I learned in 4 years of college.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
So great program. Glad I did it. I was looking at doing something different. And that was back. My dad was retired. My brother was running the company. We were small. I think he had about 7 employees, one location in Louisville. And he came to me. He knew I was wanting to do something different. He said, "Hey, you interested in coming on board? Let's grow this thing." I said, "Sure, I'll come on. Let's come on as an owner and buy Dad out." So that's what we did. So that all happened in the early 90s. We grew from Louisville location. We had a location up in Indianapolis and a location in Evansville, Indiana, which is a couple hours west of Louisville. And then, of course, 2008 came when the world ended.
It was a beatdown. Yeah.
It was. And we obviously had to make a lot of changes internally, externally, everything. Everybody did. And it was scary times. The next couple of years, we got through it. We were able to manage our way through it. But then my brother decided he wanted to go do something different. He was done with distribution. So in 2011, I bought his interest out.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
So that happened. Yeah, that happened in 2011. And then from 11, on is when the economy was really gaining some steam. 2016 was an amazing year. And I had a lot of other larger distributors. Acquisitions were very prominent at the time. And a lot of other distributors were talking to me about purchasing. I had no intention of selling. Things were doing great.
Right.
I had a great team. I built a great team over the last few years. Business was doing great. But thought about some things, talked to my advisors and said, you know what should I do here? And they said, do what's best for you and do what's best for the employees. So I worked out a deal with Total Tool.
Yeah.
Who's based out of St. Paul, Minnesota in 2017. So they acquired me in 2017. And then I stayed on board up until this past August.
Yeah.
So I was on their leadership team up until this past year. Great company. I had an amazing team that I worked with. Really, really liked it there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good company. I mean, really, really, definitely one of those companies you kind of look to and you're like, yeah, that was a good organization for sure.
Yep. And I've known them for a long time, being members of Evergreen and staffed and all that. So I was very familiar with the organization and I kind of knew what I was getting into. And it was a good move. There isn't a day that I regret selling. I think the only thing that I probably would have done different is I would have maybe waited a year or two because things were so good. But then again, I got out before COVID, so I was really, really happy.
Yeah, you know what? I think you got out just fine. But before the sale, the primary business was power tools. If I remember right, you had changed your name at that. Before you sold it. Yeah.
Yep. So I changed it from Bailey Tools and Supply to Bailey Tools and Safety.
Okay. A little foreshadowing here, I think.
Yeah. 15 years ago, safety equipment was just starting to really hit the market.
Yeah.
And back then, margins were better than they were power tools. So we really focused on safety.
Yeah.
I changed my name, put safety in the name. I hired specialists on board and we would go out and really focus on safety products and really focus on the safety directors instead of only selling, to the tool crib person or the purchasing person. So, and that went really well. Just having safety specialists on staff made a big difference. I mean, we had vans set up with equipment in it, and they would go out on the job sites and demo equipment. And of course, fall protection is, generally the largest category. So we were really focused on the fall protection market and did really well. And that became about 30% of our business total. And obviously one of our better margin categories as well. So it was great.
Sure. Yeah. So, okay. So from the shift from really contractor-based tool selling or industrial tool selling to safety sales. What did you all find was a big difference, kind of maybe in the selling cycle, the approach? I mean, what are the differences between those two businesses, if you will?
It's a product you have to go out and just say focus on fall protection with the higher end fall protection harnesses and things, that SRLs that were coming out that were a lot more expensive than just compliance. To get people to consider anything above compliance, you have to go out and really show it, put it in their hands and show them why a harness may cost 2 or 3 times more as a compliance harness. Because the worker's probably going to be more apt to wear it and wear it correctly. And if there is an issue or an incident, they're going to be safe.
Yeah.
So it's a different audience you sell to. You don't sell to the guy in the tool crib.
Yeah.
You sell to the safety director. You sell to the principals of the business because you're selling a higher end product.
Right. Okay.
And that went really well. And we had, while we were doing that and gaining steam on the safety products, we obviously had a lot of our customers asking, hey, can you do training for us on this?
Yeah.
We could do basic stuff, but I really didn't have, developed trainers that could really go out and train and talk about OSHA regulations too. So came up with the idea of, hey, why don't we start a training division within Bailey Tools?
Okay.
And we did. So I went out, I was looking for a person that knows regulations, knows OSHA, knows all the standards, also knows the equipment, is able to teach, and is also able to run a separate division.
Well, you're not asking for much there.
which is really, really hard to find. I didn't have the resources to go out and hire a team of people to start this division. So I was trying to start small with one person and myself to get this thing going. And it was really tough to find somebody that had all of those qualities. You either find somebody that's really good at selling or running a business, or somebody that's really good on the safety side and teaching and all that. I needed a combination of both.
Yeah.
I went through probably 4 or 5 people.
Yeah. That's I have a client, and it's, she's a safety supply house, and it's tough to find that person. It's still tough to find, the person to do all those things you're talking about. So,
So they say timing's everything. And right about that same time, I'm like, you know what? I really need to focus on the distribution piece. We had 2 other locations going on outside of our main location at Louisville. So it became more of a distraction. So as I was talking through that, my wife was a nail technician. She did fingers and toes for over 20 years until her hands gave out. She couldn't do it anymore. So she was actually working in our office in our payables department. And she said, you know what if I took it? Let me take it. Let me start it as a separate entity and just focus on training and just safety consulting in general.
Okay.
I said, that would be great.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So back in 2012, she separated it, started it herself. It's a certified woman-owned business.
Yeah.
Started in 2012, hired her first safety consultant. So she went out and she did the selling and the business organization and the networking, which she's really good at. And then she had a safety consultant on staff to do the deliverables. That model worked. So she grew it from 2012 up until this past year. And again, we're not huge. She didn't want it to be a huge company. She grew it at a nice, steady pace, a very nice, financially stable pace. She put the company in a really, really good financial situation. And then earlier this year, she had an opportunity to go work for one of her customers, large general contractor locally, to work in their safety division. They were very safety focused. Yeah. An opportunity she really couldn't pass up. It's a really, really good opportunity for her to do something different and to lead a pretty big team. So she wanted to take it, but her biggest concern was, what do I do with my company? That's been my baby.
What's gonna happen to this? Sure.
Right. And her biggest concern was her customers and then her employees. So we talked about a lot of different things, and we had some other, options in front of us that she could have taken. And I said, you know what? I've been in distribution for over 30 years.
Oh, I know the feeling, my man. Yeah, I get you.
That's pretty much all I've ever done.
Yeah.
Not that I wanted to leave the company I was with. I loved that company. I loved that team. But it's like, you know what? Maybe we both start over fresh.
Good call.
She takes a role. Yeah, she takes a role with a much larger company, and then I step back and run her safety company for her. So
You get to start again. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I did. I don't know. I don't know if that was the right move or not. I mean, my plan was to retire in a few years, so that might get pushed back a little bit.
I
farther,
think you're going to get pushed back a bit, depending on depending on what you want to do with it. But
right.
before we jump into really spending time talking about the Bailey safety, with Total Tool, was safety a big focus for that company? Or I mean, were they even interested in Bailey safety and in buying that at the time? Or
Never had that conversation.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
That never really came up. They obviously do focus on safety. They sell a whole lot of safety equipment. There's no specialist there like I had.
Mm-hmm.
And their percentage of safety, and I don't know the sales numbers that much with them because I was focused on the operations piece of the company rather than the sales piece. But, I know it wasn't near the percentage of what we were selling at Bailey Tools as far as safety equipment.
I got you.
But I know they do a big number with safety.
Got it.
So yeah, there was no talk there during that. And at that point too, I don't know if my wife would have sold it. At that point, she really loved doing it, and she loved building that company and building that team. But again, she had plans of getting out as far as retiring goes sooner than me too. Right. So that kind of helped her make that jump out of the company because she wasn't sure what she was going to do with it.
Gotcha. No, it's a good decision, especially going to work with a large contractor. I mean, that has a very diverse need base, with a lot of different training and probably onboarding. And there's some other stuff that I would imagine, comes with that territory. But now you've found yourself with a company. So, you're now back in the saddle.
Yeah, back running. We've got a very small team, but it's a great group of people. I turned it back. It's been a family business, kind of. She's been the only family member until I came in. But then I just hired my son-in-law to come in and do sales and business development and account management for me. So, which is what she did. My wife is an amazing marketer, or not marketer, but just networker. She loves people. She loves going out and just talking. She doesn't have to sell. She just likes meeting people in the business crew. I'm not that way. I would never say I'm a great salesperson, kind of what we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. I get it, man.
I do like the operations world and that piece and the organizational piece and building teams and things like that. I feel like that's where my strengths are. So I hired my son-in-law, who's very outgoing and has had experience in the sales side. So he came on board right before I'd started, and he's doing the business development side. And then I'm just running the operational piece, the HR piece. So yeah, we're setting ourselves up for growth, a little more aggressive than what my wife did because she didn't want to get big. And I've always saw the opportunity on the safety service side. And there's no one like us that focuses mainly on construction. There's a lot of safety consultants and trainers out there, and they focus on general industry because that's where the bulk of the business is. Yeah. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit on the construction side.
I would agree with you there. I mean, I really think that, most of the safety houses I've worked with over the years have been industrial focused, plants, and there's kind of bigger contracts there, bigger, opportunity from, an inventory selling standpoint, but it also comes with a really long tail selling approach. I mean, it's just, it's a very, that's what I was kind of asking you about the difference between slinging power tools and slinging, safety, is that what I have observed is that, I mean, you're really going in, you're putting together contracts and all this other stuff. And maybe you have to get into vending machines and all this other, stuff that is debatable how profitable that really is. And so, I think it's a different animal. But if you're going in and approaching, the low hanging fruit, as you said, and the people, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, this is your blood. I mean, these folks.
Yep. Yeah. We know the business. We know what their needs are.
Yeah.
And as far as the selling piece of it is, I think it's when you compare it to a product that you've got 10, 20 other distributors in your market selling the exact same product. Yes, it comes down to service, but pricing's always in there too. With this, one thing that really opened up my eyes, the first thing I wanted to do when I went to my son-in-law, I said, hey, we need to go out and see our customers. You and I need to meet our customers because they don't know who we are. They know my wife, Nancy. They don't know us. So we need to have face-to-faces with our customers. And we have two types of customers. We have ones that we call partnerships. We're basically held on retainer form. So we commit to a certain amount of trainings, job site audits, managing their documentation, whatever they need, we'll do that for them on any capacity, all the way up to completely running their safety program. And then we have other customers that just use us for trainings and job site audits and things like that. Really no partnership. We don't like to say contract, we call them partnerships.
Yeah.
So I said, we need to go out and see all of our partnerships and just introduce ourselves and let them know, where the business is going. And almost every customer we went and saw said, we need more. We need this. Can you help us with this? Can you help us with that?
Yeah.
After like the third or fourth sales call I made with Alex, I came back. I said, you know what? I said, you've got the easiest sales job of anybody.
Yeah.
I said,
yeah.
You've got customers not begging, but saying, we need this, we need this, we need this. And they know they need it. And especially the small to medium sized contractor who we focus on, they have to comply with the safety regulations, just like the large contractors do, but they don't necessarily have the resources to put a full-time safety director in place. So a lot of times the HR director, somebody like that, the principal, the owner is trying to manage the safety program along with doing their regular job. And that's when we can come in and just take that off their plate and manage it for them.
Yeah. Basically, you're the contractor. You're the safety contractor. I mean, over there. Yeah. Yeah. I get you.
Yep. And every contractor needs it. It's not like some contractors don't have to comply to OSHA standards. They all do.
They all do. Yeah. They have to. Yeah.
Right.
Easiest target for OSHA out there. Absolutely. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I say distribution-based because that's important. Many alternatives out there say they do distribution, but they really aren't very good at it. They're generally watered-down manufacturing packages with a few distribution features tacked on. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com. Okay, so again, a lot of trainings. That's what you're doing, a lot of the trainings. And as you said, some of the compliance, documentation management, and all of that kind of thing. So I've got to ask, do you ever advise on products? I mean, do you ever steer people a certain way?
We don't. We're staying clear of that. Obviously, in our market, we refer people to Total Tool because of the relationship we have with Total Tool. So yes, we do work a little bit with the Total Tool salesperson. We share leads. So when we have equipment leads, we turn them over to Total Tool. When Total Tool has training leads, they turn them over to us. So it's a good partnership. Yeah. At least here locally it is. Yep.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So I just was curious. I mean, I'm sure that manufacturers would probably try to court you a little bit and ask you to slide people one way or the other. But
they don't, just because we don't push a specific product.
Got it.
Even when we do our trainings and we have product in the trainings, we make it a point to have lots of different manufacturers represented, not just one. So definitely got me out of the product space, I guess. Like I was really involved with distribution. Right.
I mean, that's something you and I talked about. It's kind of it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely a departure, becoming a service company, a service-based company versus an inventory-based company. That's it's a change. How have you adjusted to that?
It's been tough because I still have to learn how to manage. We're basically managing labor. So that is a learning curve for me for sure. We've got consultants on staff. The scheduling, as we're growing, and we've been growing, the scheduling is getting more challenging because it's, who has time to do this? We've got customers asking us for this trainings. They want us to go to, to do job site audits so many times a week. And it's just managing all that labor. So I'm looking at different technologies that could help us with that. I don't have a good feeling right now where my guys are spending their time, and do we need to be spending more time doing other things? Because there's obviously office work that has to be done a lot of times after audits, and we review safety manuals, we write safety manuals, we write safety programs. So there's a lot that has to be done that's not necessarily directly in front of the customer, and just managing all of that is definitely a learning curve that trying to figure out what technology would be best to do that, especially as we grow.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially as we grow. But say I've got a great team right now. My son-in-law, he handles the customer side of the business. And then we've got our general manager, who's also one of our safety consultants, been with us from the beginning. He manages the safety consultant side.
Okay.
So he's the contact for the employees. My son-in-law is the contact for the customer. So I'm trying to stay out of it.
Yeah.
I want to be involved. I want to know the customer, but what I don't want anyone relying on me.
Yeah. Yep. I hear you, man. I think, hey, something's happened in 30 years of learning this, figuring out I do not want to be involved. I get that.
Right.
Yeah. So, Steve, would you say that your trainings in most of your education, is it primarily premise-based or is it virtual?
It's all premise-based.
All premise-based. Okay. So is there any virtual, like anything you're doing?
Very little.
Okay.
We have a couple of customers that are out of town and they specifically ask for some virtual training. One, to kind of keep costs down, because if we travel somewhere out of town, there's other costs incurred with that. So we do very few. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 a month, if that. They're mainly safety meetings, or a lot of people call them toolbox talks.
Okay.
We call them safety talks. We do those virtually with their staff or with their superintendents, foremen, shop people, things like that. And we do a couple of those virtually, but we want to be in front of the customer. There's just so much to say about the one-on-one just interaction. I mean, virtual is great, and you can get a lot of stuff done virtually, but you lose a lot of that interaction.
Oh, trust me, I get it, Steve. I mean, when COVID rolled around and I had to pivot over to virtual, it was tough. It was really tough. I missed the audience. I missed the face. I didn't miss the travel, but I do miss the the face to face. And I think you're right. There's a connection that can occur. But what I have come to realize is that if you want to grow, there are only so many hours you can give. And that sometimes archived and virtual types of training, is a way to expand the business without you having to be physically present in that same space and time. So it's a tough transition to go, again, to become a service based company and really understand, but and there is a lot of technology. You and I have kind of touched on a couple of different pieces that is interesting. I think there were some challenges you and I talked about, language barriers, for example. I mean, that's another area that could be solved through technology.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the workforce that's on job sites right now, and the number of Hispanic, Spanish speaking workers it's growing tremendously.
Yep.
And we're asked every day. And right now, we don't have a good source for Spanish teachings.
Right.
And so that's one thing was on my list to address in 2025 is we've got to get somebody on board that's bilingual.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. No, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, and I mean, let's face it. It's not just Spanish. Now, Spanish speaking is the primary that I would see most often, but I do see other languages being spoken in, and that would be pretty spectacular if you could say, I can offer this in, Russian. I can offer this in certain, other languages, that would be advantageous. So
technology is coming.
It is. It's coming. I mean, it's a little janky right now. I mean, it's getting better though, and I think, and it's getting more affordable. So again, mere mortals like you and I, can actually afford this, going forward and bring those kinds of services out there. So. Nice.
Yeah, but we try to focus really on the in-person trainings versus the virtual. Say one thing COVID did do is it did introduce a lot of virtual trainings. Again, we're not doing it, not to say that we never will, but we just really stress the importance of having an in-person training and just interaction rather than just watching a video.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I think that is truly the way to get the strongest impact. I mean, absolutely. No, it's a pretty fantastic journey. In that contractor customer, generally speaking, so it's a smaller contractor, not somebody who's been around the block for a long time, has, 100 folks on. The smaller contractor, these are the folks that really do need that help. That they just don't, they don't know the rules. They don't. Quick departure. What about training distributors? Is that something that you're doing as well?
We do.
Okay.
Because anybody that has a warehouse that has people working in a warehouse picking product and driving fork trucks around, they fall under that. It's considered general industry, not construction. But yes, everybody that sits on a fork truck has to be fork truck trained, and they have to be retrained every couple of years.
So are you actively going after people like this, especially in the Louisville, in that Northern Kentucky? Yeah.
We've got a lot of distribution centers, a lot of small manufacturing. Yes, my latest hire was a general industry consultant who has 20 plus years in general industry. So right now it's about 10 to 15% of our business, non-construction, general industry. So I'm going to grow that.
Sure.
Because again, our competitors are going after the really large manufacturers, the really large industrial spaces that are getting involved with hazmat stuff and doing hazmat trainings and things like that. I don't want to get into that piece of it, but there's a lot of distribution centers. There's a lot of small manufacturing, a lot of fabrication shops. They're required to follow the same OSHA guidelines as the big ones, and a lot of them don't even know. And they don't know until an incident happens and OSHA shows up and it's, oh crap, let's call somebody because we need help. We didn't know we had to train our people on fork truck every 2 years. And
that's right. Exactly. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And I would imagine that you all are probably getting fairly familiar with the OSHA folks in your area.
Yes. Yeah. We work alongside of them.
Okay.
For our partnership customers, if they have OSHA comes on site, we have some customers that call OSHA on site. OSHA does have a division that'll come on your job site and just review the job site. They're not there to give any fines, but they'll review the job site with you. So we work alongside those. And then if there is an incident, we're on site with that customer and helping through the investigation. And then we help get them compliant to reduce any potential fines that they could be getting from OSHA. So yeah, we work with OSHA on a regular basis.
Yeah. And that's kind of always an eye opener when I teach that, and I share that in classes, that OSHA has a secondary mandate. It's to actually help out. There's a consulting side, and a lot of folks don't know how to access that consulting side, the non-ticket writer side of OSHA's mandate. But so in Kentucky, I know that in other states, that's typically handled by a third party. In Kentucky, is that directly with OSHA, or is there a kind of an arm's length third party that does that?
It's a third party that works for the state of Kentucky.
Okay.
It's a state organization.
Yeah, in Georgia, it's Georgia Tech that actually they contract out to Georgia Tech to do that. And in Texas, it's the Texas Department of Insurance, Bureau of Insurance, I think it's called. Yeah. So I was just curious if that was it. But yeah, I think, and that's an area that a lot of companies just don't know about, that, they can ask OSHA to come in and take a good look and, and go check it out. But a lot of people, honestly, if you say, hey, why don't we have OSHA come in and take a look at us? There's a lot of fear associated with that. Yeah.
Yes. And that's when we can come in and do that for them as well. Good. But we try to maintain that relationship with OSHA, because when there is an incident, we're there. OSHA knows who we are. They know we're here to help and try to prevent this. Our goal at Bailey Safety is to prevent these, we want to be proactive, not reactive. And we're so reactive because customers don't want to invest, or they don't want to put the training out there and spend the money for whatever reason, or take their people off the job sites.
Yeah.
Because they haven't had an issue,
Right.
It's until they have an issue, it's like, oh crap, we need to catch up.
Yes. Yeah. You need to get caught up, and then once they get caught up, I would assume it's relatively easy to maintain. It's something that, that can be maintained, but it just, it's like stuff that we knew about, dead inventory, things like that. You got to stay on perpetual mode, or else you're in trouble again.
Yep. And that's one of the biggest things I've found with our customers is they're struggling to track their employees and what training they've had and when trainings come due and they need to get retrained. So I'm looking at some platforms that could help them out to where we can track their employees together.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So when their required trainings do expire, hey, we're here. You got 3 employees whose CPR first aid expires in 90 days. We got some classes coming up.
Have you looked at some payroll companies? Speaking of that, I know that some of the payroll platforms like Paycom and Paylocity, things like that, I know that those actually have the ability to do that type of tracking and do that. So that might be another area to partnership to go at. So,
Yep.
I think, Steve, one of the cool things I hear, as you hired your son-in-law to get involved with this, is like you're perpetuating, the Bailey family tradition of entrepreneurial activity. And I think that's just, it's a really cool tradition. I mean, I was born into it. You were born into it. There seems to be something in our DNA that makes us think that we can actually start and run businesses. As crazy as we may be, but,
It is tough when you get out, of running your business. And that was tough.
I know. I remember.
That was tough. But yeah, it's exciting for me to get back into it, to run a business again and to build a team and, and to do something that I feel like, selling products is important. We got to make sure, when you sell products, you're selling the right product and their employees are safe. But, our business is to make sure our customers' employees go home every day.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what we do.
Right.
We want to make sure no one gets hurt and goes home to their family at the end of the day.
And I appreciate that. I mean, I think that is the kind of that higher calling of any of that organization and really safety supply houses too. I mean, they want to make sure people go home at night. I heard that several years ago from someone and I went, wow, that's a much higher calling than just slinging tools or slinging slings or, safety harnesses and things like that. So,
so it's been fun. It's been a good transition so far, but it's a challenge for sure. I got a lot to learn.
Oh yeah.
Managing labor is much different than managing an inventory.
It is.
And that's what I've been doing for 30 years.
You'll find that it's a little nicer sometimes, it's a little nicer, Yeah. I guess you don't have dead labor, but you could.
Yeah, we could.
You could. You never know. We're trying to avoid that too. Everybody goes home. Well, Steve, hey man, I truly appreciate you coming on, talking a little bit about your journey and, talking about this safety realm, this safety area. It's sometimes a bit of a mystery to people, about where where it's going. And especially in the world you and I grew up in, the contractor communities. It's still, I think, a bit of a mystery on how you get your arms around it, but pretty excited for your journey and where you're going here. So,
yeah, thank you. Appreciate the time too. This has been fun.
You bet. All right, my friend. Well, hey, look forward to the next time our paths cross and, we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Jason.
All right, man. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.